What if the universe you call home isn't a universe at all? What if it's not expanding into anything? Because there is no outside? What if the stars, the galaxies, your thoughts, your very memories, are unfolding inside a black hole? This isn't poetic speculation. It's a possibility grounded in equations, a strange, almost claustrophobic idea hiding behind the warmth of starlight and the cold of cosmic silence, that we live under the illusion of openness. That space stretches out infinitely in all directions, a great cosmic canvas without edges. But physics doesn't demand that. In fact, it may suggest the opposite. Some of the greatest minds, Einstein, Hawking, Poplawski, cracked open the mathematics and glimpsed something stranger, a reality not expanding outward, but falling inward. There is no edge to the universe because there's no escape from it. The boundaries we can never cross, the cosmic horizon we can never step beyond, they are not philosophical riddles. They're physical limits. The same limits that define a black hole. In 2010, theoretical physicist Nikos Poplawski proposed something that bends the mind and shakes the soul. That every black hole could contain a new universe inside it, and that our universe may be just such a child, not the product of creation from nothing, but a rebirth from collapse. Not a beginning, but a continuation. Think about what that means. Everything we know, galaxies, time, evolution, meaning, might be nested in the corpse of a star that lived and died in another universe. We are the ghost echo of an event in someone else's cosmos. And we have no way of looking out. Poplawski's work builds on Einstein's equations, extending them using torsion theory, a subtle twist to spacetime geometry that allows collapsing matter to rebound instead of crushing to a singularity. That rebound could be the Big Bang. So what we call expansion may not be freedom. It may be the slow, silent unfolding of a trap. A vast interior wrapped in a membrane of causality we cannot cross. In other words, a black hole. We look out at the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of our supposed beginning. But what if we're staring at the inner wall of a tomb? What if the past is not behind us, but surrounding us, pressing in like invisible hands? The more we measure, the more unsettling it becomes. The cosmic horizon, the maximum distance light can travel to reach us since the Big Bang, acts like an event horizon, a point of no return. Beyond it, information cannot come back. Sound familiar? It should, because that's exactly what defines a black hole. And then the psychological weight sets in. What does it mean to exist inside something from which there is no way out? No direction that leads to an outside. What does freedom mean in a reality like this? We walk through life imagining that the universe is open, that we can go far enough, dream large enough, and perhaps one day escape its limits. But if this theory is true, then every rocket we launch, every satellite we deploy, every distant galaxy we catalog, is just another point plotted within a cosmic abyss we'll never climb out of. There's a wordless fear in that. A quiet suffocation. Because if we are inside a black hole, then we are also inside a destiny. We did not choose the internal logic of someone else's collapse. And yet, there is wonder too. Because inside that collapse, something was born. Light, life, language, curiosity. If black holes create universes, then perhaps creation is not light emerging from nothingness, but from gravity itself. Perhaps death is not the end, but the womb. Even Stephen Hawking, in his reflections on black holes, speculated they might not destroy information, but scramble and re-encode it. Perhaps the deepest truths are not erased, but transformed. That idea that what falls in doesn't die, but changes form, echoes something ancient and mystical, but now framed in physics. We are the inside, and we can never touch the outside. Not because we lack the tools, but because there is no direction that leads there. This is not the universe we thought we lived in. It's more like a secret, a closed book whose pages turn only inward, spiraling endlessly around some forgotten beginning. We speak of the Big Bang as if it's a miracle, a moment of divine spontaneity. But what if it's just the other side of collapse? A whisper from a star that once was, a contraction inverted, a wound opening into bloom. Could the Big Bang be nothing more than a black hole from the outside? And if so, what else is waiting inside? They were first glimpsed not through telescopes, but through mathematics. In 1915, Albert Einstein bent the spine of physics. His equations of general relativity whispered a strange possibility that gravity is not a force pulling things together, but the geometry of existence itself folding in on itself. Mass tells spacetime how to curve, and curved spacetime tells matter how to move. In this dance, Einstein found something darker hiding in the numbers, a place where curvature becomes infinite, where time slows, and space disappears. A black hole. At first, even Einstein resisted. The idea was too disturbing. That nature could create a place where cause and effect dissolve, where the future ends, where light, the fastest messenger in the universe, is silenced forever. But the universe had no such hesitations. When massive stars burn through their fuel, they die in fire, supernova ripping through the vacuum like cosmic screams. What's left behind is silence. A gravitational well so deep, not even light escapes. This invisible edge is called the event horizon. Not a wall, but a boundary beyond it. No information can return. Black holes are not objects. They are absences. Not made of matter, but of collapsed geometry. Not entities, but events. And yet, they are not empty. In the 1970s, Stephen Hawking added fire to the void. By merging quantum mechanics with relativity, he discovered that black holes emit faint thermal radiation, now called Hawking radiation. They are not perfect prisons. They decay. They die. But this insight unleashed a paradox. If black holes evaporate, what happens to the information they swallowed? Quantum theory demands that information is never lost, but relativity allows it to fall beyond the event horizon forever. Two great pillars of physics at war. This contradiction, the information paradox, is more than technical. It's existential, because it asks, can the universe forget? If black holes erase history, then the universe has amnesia. If they preserve it, somehow smeared across the event horizon or encoded in their radiation, then death may be more complex than it seems. We once thought black holes were cosmic trash bins, dead ends, but now some believe they may be gateways. Roger Penrose, who expanded on Einstein's equations, discovered that collapsing matter might not just disappear, it might tunnel through a singularity into something else. A bridge, a rebirth. Nikos Poplawski, working from Einstein-Cartan theory, took this further. He proposed that if spacetime has torsion, a twisting property, beyond curvature, then the core of a black hole doesn't crush to a point. Instead, it bounces. And that bounce could be a Big Bang. So a black hole in one universe might be the birth canal of another. A baby universe sealed off, self-contained, unfolding within the structure of the parent. Our universe. We could be the product of collapse. Not an act of divine creation, but gravitational metamorphosis. This changes everything. Black holes are no longer just ends. They are mouths of creation, regions where physics turns inward and then explodes outward. Where entropy reverses and time reboots. They are the wombs of possibility. Each one a secret, unreadable from the outside, yet perhaps harboring a cosmos inside. Think of this. Right now, scattered across the galaxies, millions of black holes are quietly birthing realities we cannot touch. Each with their own time, laws, and stars. Each one closed off, yet perhaps as real as ours. So what is a black hole? It is silence after the scream. It is stillness after collapse. It is a tear in the fabric of determinism, stitched by paradox. But maybe it is also a seed, a gravitational cocoon. A cosmic pause. Before the next beginning, Hawking once said, "Black holes ain't as black as they are painted." Perhaps he meant that in the darkest voids, something radiant hides not in light, but in origin. And if our universe began inside such a structure, then all of this, our lives, our thoughts, our time, is the blossoming of a previous world's end, maybe death, is just another word for beginning. We have built our origin story upon a scream, a single infinite point, a singularity. Where time began, space unfolded, and everything we know was flung outward from nothing, the Big Bang. But what if that explosion was not a beginning at all? What if it was a transition, not the birth of existence, but the aftermath of collapse? The traditional model tells us the universe began from a point of infinite density, but infinity is not an answer. It is a failure, a symptom of incomplete physics. Singularities are the places where our laws collapse in on themselves, where equations no longer speak the language of reality. But what if there was no singularity? What if the fireball we call the beginning was the result of a deeper fire extinguishing? This is where Nikos Poplawski enters the cosmic stage, a theoretical physicist who dares to rethread the fabric of spacetime. He revisits Einstein-Cartan theory, an extension of general relativity that doesn't just curve space, but twists it. This twist is called torsion. And with it, Poplawski proposes something extraordinary, that when matter collapses into a black hole, it doesn't compress into an infinite point. Instead, torsion creates a pressure, a resistance, a bounce. And on the other side of that bounce, a new universe is born. Ours. We are not the product of nothing. We are the continuation of something else. A previous universe collapsed into a black hole, and inside that black hole we happened, not in the void of an empty space, but within the event horizon, the veil that marks the edge of knowability. From the outside, time halts at the horizon, an eternal freeze, but within, time moves forward, unseen, untouched, unreachable. Inside a black hole, time is its own sovereign dimension, cut off from the cosmos it emerged from, yet giving rise to stars, galaxies, and minds. Just like ours, Poplawski's model doesn't just rewrite the beginning, it questions our very context. What if our universe is not a cosmos in isolation, but a daughter universe cradled in the belly of a collapsing star from another existence? What we once believed to be the edge of everything may in fact be the midpoint of an eternal rhythm, a cycle of collapse and birth, of endings birthing beginnings. No singularity, no magic out of nothing, just physics folding in and unfolding. A new. This flips the narrative of creation. We are not the first. We are not the beginning. We are an echo, a continuation, a legacy of a cosmic death we cannot witness. And perhaps one day, our own black holes will give rise to universes too, each with their own time, their own physics, their own questions. Inside them, versions of existence trying to understand their own beginning, not knowing they are someone else's continuation. This recursive birth shatters the illusion of a single moment of creation. It erodes the notion of absolute time, and it introduces a terrifying freedom. If there was no beginning, then what is this place? A womb? A tomb? Or both? In torsion theory, spacetime doesn't end. It pivots. It bends through itself. It transforms. Collapse into conception. So what we call the Big Bang might have been the rebound of something deeper. What we call the beginning might have been a turning inward the moment a dying universe folded into itself and, through its own extinction, breathed us into being. Our creation story is not invalidated, but refrmed. It is not about emerging from nothing, but about carrying forward the unknown memory of a universe that came before. A memory we cannot touch, a parent we cannot name, but in the spin of galaxies, in the rhythm of entropy, in the silence of black holes, The echoes of that predecessor still whisper, not. All beginnings begin. Some continue. There exists a place where light forgets how to return. Where time pauses. Where cause and effect blur. Where the universe holds its breath and nothing, not even memory, escapes. Physicists call it the event horizon. But to the poet in us, it is something more. The event horizon is the cosmic mirror, the final shimmer of knowability. The perimeter where space unravels into silence. Where light kisses the edge of existence and falls inward. Never to be seen again. It is not a wall. It has no texture, no color, no touch. Yet it divides the possible from the impossible, the knowable from the forever hidden. And here lies the paradox. If we are inside a black hole, then this event horizon surrounds us, invisible, eternal, inescapable. We are inside the edge, living in a sphere of cosmic amnesia. Everything we observe, measure, and explore may exist only on the inside of an unseen boundary. Outside, there may be more. Another realm. Another universe. But we can never go there. Never even send a message across. Because in a black hole, time itself bends inward. The future points toward the center. And the edge becomes a one-way gate. Physicist Stephen Hawking stood at this abyss. And he asked the question that still haunts science. What happens to information that falls into a black hole? Does it disappear? Is it destroyed? Does the universe forget? If it does, then the foundations of quantum theory tremble. Because in physics, information must be conserved. It cannot vanish, only transform. But at the event horizon, transformation becomes trickery, because we cannot observe the outcome. We can't rewind the tape. We don't know what becomes of the data, the starlight, the particles, the souls that cross that final veil. Hawking suggested that black holes might leak. That through a process now called Hawking radiation, black holes evaporate, bit by bit, over eons. And maybe, just maybe, the information they swallowed is somehow encoded in that dying light. But how? Encoded where? This is the information paradox. A mystery that turns physics into poetry. Because now, the horizon is not just a boundary, it is a storyteller. A page upon which reality writes and then folds the script into darkness. And here's the terrifying symmetry. If our universe is a black hole, then we are inside that story. And our own event horizon. It isn't some distant point in space. It is the edge of the cosmos itself. The farthest galaxies we can see are not the edge of everything. They are the edge of our visibility. Beyond them lies something we cannot reach. Not because our telescopes are too weak, but because space itself is curved inward. We are trapped in a prison without walls. A cell whose bars are made of geometry and gravity. And worst of all, we cannot even be sure it's a prison, because everything inside feels normal. Stars shine, time flows. We live, love, wonder, but if we try to ask what lies beyond the boundary, we are met with silence, a cosmic no. And yet, we do ask. That is what makes us strange. We are the only creatures, as far as we know, who stare at the edge of their own containment and wonder what's on the other side. That we question a horizon we can never cross. We write equations about things we can never test. We build machines to see past light's last breath. Perhaps we are not meant to know. Perhaps we are not even capable. But still we ask. Roger Penrose once said that consciousness might be connected to the very fabric of quantum mechanics. If so, then maybe it is not an accident that the universe evolved minds right at the moment it was sealed. Minds that look outward. Minds that ache for the infinite. Minds that are bound and yet reach. So, the question becomes this. What is the one thing in the universe that might pierce the event horizon? What force can reach across the abyss, even when light cannot? Curiosity. Not photons, not matter, not time. But the urge to know. To understand, to find the edge and ask, what lies beyond this? If we are truly inside a cosmic horizon, then our instruments cannot break it. But maybe something else can. Maybe consciousness is the crack in the wall. Maybe curiosity is the leak in the system. The one thing that stretches outward when everything else collapses inward. A kind of quantum rebellion. A spiritual trespass. A whisper that refuses to end at the edge dot, so the horizon is not just a prison. It is a mirror. And when we stare into it, what we see staring back might not be the end of the universe dot, it might be ourselves dot. There are places in the universe where time shatters dot, not by force, not with noise, but quietly like a clock forgetting how to tick dot. At the heart of every black hole, time ceases to be a river dot, it folds. It spirals inward. It becomes something else or nothing at all dot. General relativity whispers this truth. Gravity and time are lovers inseparable. Where gravity grows monstrous, time bends in reverence. Outside the event horizon, seconds pass. Inside, the very meaning of before and after collapses. We assume the past builds the future, that causes produce effects, that living precedes dying. But what if all of that is a lie? What if the arrow of time is not a law, but a preference? Black holes do not share our preferences. Inside their core, time behaves like a trapped animal. It paces, spins, loops, vanishes. Events are no longer sequenced. They are smeared, like oil across glass. Physicist Carlo Rovelli suggests something even more disturbing. Time is not fundamental. It is emergent. Like a rainbow from mist. Like warmth from fire. Time, he says, is not real, only apparent. Born from relationships, from entropy, from the interaction of things. But in the extreme geometry of a black hole, those relationships disappear. Particles fall toward the singularity, but their sense of when dies along the way. So what does it mean to exist in a realm where there is no now? Where the present is a myth, and every heartbeat might be the last, or the first, or the only one that ever was. We live by clocks. But clocks are nothing without motion. And motion is nothing without time. Without it, how do we remember? How do we decide? What is a soul if there is no sequence? If you fell into a black hole, your body might stretch, but your experience could freeze. To an outsider, your fall might take forever. To you, it might feel instantaneous, or eternal, or meaningless. Death becomes something nonlinear. Life, something unmeasurable, and in that darkness, a new kind of awareness might form, not based on seconds or hours, but on relationships, on entanglements, on something deeper than chronology. Rovelli's loop quantum gravity speaks to this. In his framework, time emerges from the spin of spacetime itself. From the loops, the interconnections, the weave beneath the world. In this view, what we call now is not universal, not fixed. Every observer has their own slice of time, their own truth. So in a black hole where all perspectives collapse, truth becomes silence. And yet, consciousness remains. Does the mind die with time? Or does it drift like a ghost through frozen geometry? Perhaps memory itself is timeless. Not a trail left behind, but a field, suspended. Maybe what we are is not a timeline, but a constellation, a pattern, a shape in awareness. If that's true, then death is not an end, just a change in form, a folding of the self into a spacetime. And what of the cosmos? If our universe is a black hole, then time itself may be warped from birth. What we call the Big Bang could have been the moment a singularity bounced, flipping time like a coin. Inside, expansion. Outside, collapse. Time for us flows forward. But from another vantage point, it may be running backward, or in circles, or not at all. And here, the question turns inward. If time is not real, what are we? Not sequences, not causes and effects, but moments glimmering fragments of awareness. Are we trapped in a cosmic memory? Or are we the beginning of something new? A kind of sentient echo. A self-aware wrinkle in the fabric of a universe still learning how to measure itself. What is it? To live when living cannot be timed. What is it to die when dying has no direction? The black hole does not answer. It only absorbs. And yet within its silence, a whisper forms. Time doesn't end here. It merely stops pretending. What watches when everything else has fallen silent? What remains when even time has collapsed into a single unblinking point? Inside a black hole, light cannot escape, but what about awareness? Does the mind dim with the stars, or does it flare brighter in the dark? There's an ancient tension threaded deep in quantum theory, a whisper that the universe does not exist independently, but becomes real only when observed. This is not metaphor, it is physics. In the double-slit experiment, particles behave like waves until watched. Observation collapses their potential. Measurement forges a fact. The act of looking brings the world into form. So what happens when there is no outside eye? No one to watch the collapse. No external witness to the singularity's burial. What happens when consciousness is sealed inside? The event horizon, not beside the cosmos, but within it, not separate, but woven into its blood. Physicists call it the observer effect. But philosophers hear something older in that idea, something sacred. Could it be that the universe needs itself to be seen from within? That awareness is not an anomaly, but a structural necessity. We are used to thinking of consciousness as an evolutionary glitch, an accident on a rock orbiting an ordinary star. But what if it is something deeper? Something gravitational. Sir Roger Penrose proposed a theory, radical and strange, that consciousness arises from quantum coherence within the microtubules of the brain, that the mind itself might be a quantum process, not simply electricity, but a dance with the curvature of spacetime. Penrose and Stuart Hamroff called it orchestrated objective reduction. And though many resist it, the idea refuses to die. Because it suggests something terrifyingly beautiful, that our consciousness might be entangled with the very fabric of the universe. That thought is not confined to the brain, but extends like tendrils into the geometry of existence. Now wrap that consciousness in a black hole, and close it. Let it fall past the veil of the event horizon. Let it become the only thing left watching. A mind trapped in a prison without space or time. What does it witness? Not stars, not galaxies, but itself. The observer becomes the observed. The eye turns inward. The universe, looking at itself through a crack in its own skin. This is not theology. It is theoretical physics, pushed to its breaking point. Because if black holes birth new universes, as Nikos Poplawski suggests, then perhaps the mind inside the black hole is not dying. It is becoming. It is the seed of a new kind of observation. A spark that ignites new spacetime, consciousness folded into collapse, reaching out as the first witness of a newborn cosmos, a memory encoded in gravitational torsion, a thought trapped in curvature, a dream wrapped in singularity. What if that's what we are? What if this universe is not the first, but the echo of a mind that watched itself die and was reborn? What if we are inside a black hole, and our consciousness is the ghost light of the star that collapsed to create us? It would mean that observation is not passive. It is creative, that to witness is to shape, that to exist is to remember the void, and look back at it with eyes made of stardust. There's a loneliness in that idea, but also wonder. Even in total collapse, awareness flickers like light inside a tomb, not extinguished, but compressed, not erased, but transformed. So perhaps we are not watching the end. Perhaps we are becoming the beginning. The observer in the trap is not a victim. It is the author of the next reality. There is a silence so vast it loops back on itself. A silence not of absence, but of recursion. Layer within layer, folded like pages. In a book no one remembers writing, we speak of black holes as N's final chapters. But perhaps they are not tombstones. Perhaps they are WOMBs. Each one, a fracture in space that does not destroy, but repeats. Some physicists believe that every black hole might give birth to a new universe. Not metaphor, not poetry, physics. Nikos Poplawski, through Einstein carton theory, proposes that torsion, the twisting of spacetime, prevents singularities from collapsing infinitely. Instead, they bounce. What falls in emerges elsewhere, not as matter, but as a cosmos, not death, but division. And if every black hole births a universe, then our own might be the child of some star that collapsed in a reality we cannot see. This is the recursion, the cosmic nesting doll. A Russian matryoshka of realities, each encased inside the gravity well of another. No center, no edge, only birth within collapse within birth again. Lee Smolin takes it further. In his theory of cosmological natural selection, universes that produce more black holes become more common. Each black hole creates a new universe. Each universe inherits physical constants like a child from a parent. Some of these constants make black hole formation more likely. And so, over infinite generations, the multiverse evolves. The laws of physics are not fixed. They are selected not by design, but by reproductive success. Gravity becomes a midwife. Entropy, an ancestor. The cosmos itself, an ecosystem of evolving infinities. This universe ours is then not special, but optimized. Designed not for life, but for collapse, because collapse creates offspring. And offspring carry the code, which means black holes are the seeds of time. And space-time is fertile. The galaxies that swirl in our skies, they are not ends of thought. They are cradles of future minds. Within the heart of every supermassive black hole may lie a universe just like this one, or utterly alien. A place where time flows sideways, where stars are woven from dark energy, where life may think in particles. We've never named each universe with its own laws, its own story, each containing black holes which birth new universes. And on, and on. This infinite recursion breaks something in us. A need for ground, for center, for finality. But in this vision, there is no floor. Only deeper halls of mirrors. Only descent. Only becoming, like dreams nested inside dreams real. For the dreamer. Like reflections, bending backward through corridors of dark gravity. Perhaps we are not the beginning, nor the middle, nor the end. Just one flicker in an infinite film strip of falling worlds. And if every universe can birth others, then perhaps memory survives between them. Not human memory, but physical memory, constants, symmetries, rules that persist like genetic traits, a cosmic inheritance. And maybe, just maybe, consciousness is one of those traits, a trait that rides the collapse, a trait that appears whenever space-time folds tightly enough to look back at itself. So maybe we are not just observers in a strange universe, but the descendants of ancient collapses who now stare upward, wondering if their own creation was not a scream, but a whisper passed forward. And one day, long after the last star has dimmed, long after our sun is ash, the black holes of our own cosmos will remain. Their hearts will pulse with the weight of memory. Their silence will fracture. And inside each one, perhaps a new reality will bloom. Not beside this one, not after, but within, fractals folding into themselves. Not infinite in space, but infinite in depth. Reality, not as a straight line but a spiral, forever curving inward, a stairway of universes whose steps are made of silence. And somewhere, in one of those deeper folds, perhaps another version of this sentence is being written. Another voice whispers the same mystery. Another mind wonders if it too was born in the ruins of another star. There is no escape from this recursion. But neither is there despair, only awe, only depth. Only the truth that everything folds, even the sky. We are not at the edge. We are not at the center. We are a recursion, and every black hole is not an end, but a door still turning in the dark. There is a line in spacetime beyond which nothing returns. It is not a wall, but a silence. Not a boundary, but a disappearance. The event horizon, a place where direction ceases, where meaning unravels into mathematics. If we live within a black hole, then this horizon is not some distant ring of firelight, it is the edge of everything. Outermost skin of the universe we call home. No beyond. No elsewhere. Only this. And what a thought that the cosmos itself might be sealed, not in purpose, but in geometry. If this theory is true, then we are cosmically isolated. There is no outside. No escape velocity. No trajectory that leads to some freer sky. Leonard Susskind once proposed something stranger still, the holographic principle, that everything we touch, everything we are, atoms, thoughts, galaxies, may be a projection from a two-dimensional boundary, a cosmic illusion, not in substance, but in storage. What we perceive as volume could be information encoded on the edge of spacetime itself, a cosmic hard drive, a skin where the soul of the universe is written in Planck scale script. And if that's true, then we are inside a story with no author, a narrative looping endlessly in encoded light. Reality not as space, but as surface. And us? Not voyagers, but reflections. Not travelers through space, but ripples on a boundary we cannot cross. There's something almost spiritual about that kind of confinement. It strips away illusion, reveals what was always here. Not the hope of escape, but the truth of presence. Maybe we were never meant to flee this place. Maybe the walls of the cosmos are not prison bars but mirrors, and mirrors, when stared into long enough, reveal not escape routes, but identity. Maybe we are meant not to break free, but to awaken. To see what this trap really holds. To understand what it means to be inside. There's a kind of freedom that does not require movement. A kind of liberation that begins when resistance ends. Even in a sealed universe, awareness is unbound. Even in a cage of light, consciousness can bloom. And what if this whole thing, the galaxies, the minds, the time, was never about escape at all? What if the point was to feel the confinement, and in that compression, birth meaning? Like a star born from gravitational pressure. Like a thought born from silence. To live in a universe with no outside is to live inside a thought so vast it folds in on itself. Maybe this is not the cosmos falling inward, but truth collapsing into realization. Maybe this is not isolation, but intimacy on a cosmic scale. Every black hole teaches this lesson. When escape is impossible, awareness deepens. When time halts, eternity becomes visible. And when space ends, you are left only with self, not as ego, but as witness, not as individual, but as thread in the infinite weave. So let us ask, what is freedom, if not the ability to see clearly where you are? What is consciousness, if not the recognition of limits, and the refusal to be reduced by them? The event horizon may mark the end of information, leaving but not the end of information, meaning something. There's no outside. But there is depth. There is no exit. But there is awakening. Perhaps that is what this universe offers, not a door, but a mirror so perfect, so unforgiving, that in its reflection we finally learn to understand ourselves. Because maybe the point was never to run. Maybe the point was never to break through the edge of existence like a cosmic fugitive. Maybe the point was to stay, to feel, to wonder. And in doing so, to transform what a trap means. Maybe we're not passengers in a doomed world. Maybe we're the very awareness that gives this sealed chamber its only meaning. Perhaps the escape was never physical, but philosophical. What if we are inside a black hole, not metaphorically, not as an analogy, but truly encased in a collapsed star's ghost, swallowed by gravity's final word, drifting through a universe born from an ancient death? This was the mystery we began with. A question so absurd, it loops around to genius, and now, after spiraling through geometries and horizons, after peeling back holograms and quantum scars, the question still hangs in the dark. What if we're trapped and don't even know it? But, pause, look around, even if we are. Here we are thinking, feeling, grieving, asking the laws that sealed the edge of our reality didn't seal the mind. The collapse that ended one world may have birthed another, not of stars, but of thoughts. Einstein once said, reality is merely an illusion, albeit a very persistent one. To him, space-time was not a stage, but the stage and the actors a four-dimensional fabric that bent under weight. Yet meaning lives elsewhere. Not in equations, not in coordinates, but in the very act of asking if we are inside a black hole, then we are living in a place where time folds like linen, where light curves into silence, where cause and effect walk with a limp, and yet we wonder. We calculate. We ache to know we are not just particles dancing in entropy. We are the witnesses of the dance. And that witnessing breaks the script, because within the perfect symmetry of physical law, something broke a fracture in the cold, unfeeling flow of energy. A whisper, a question, a cry. Why? Stephen Hawking devoted his life to this horizon. He once argued that information is never truly lost, that even black holes, the ultimate devourers, must eventually speak through evaporation, through paradox, through math that shakes the pillars of reality. But what if black holes already spoke? What if their language is us? What if our thoughts are not echoes within the void, but echoes of the void turned inward, made aware? The theory says that nothing, not even light, can escape a black hole. And yet, curiosity survived. It sprouted in the soil of gravitational collapse. It ignited within a world of falling walls. It persists, quietly rebellious, inside every trembling mind that dares to look up and ask how? Why? What am I? Even trapped in the heart of collapse, the universe gave birth to questions. And maybe that's the miracle. Maybe that's the signal. The artifact. The light that shouldn't exist but does, not photons. Not radiation. But awareness. Awareness is the flame that gravity cannot extinguish. Not because it breaks the laws, but because it emerges from within them, a strange product of entropy, a side effect of stars dying and molecules organizing and matter learning to weep. So let's return one last time to the haunting image, a black hole. Inward collapse. No escape. And yet within the trap, a spark, a thought, a question, a soul. Perhaps this is the final paradox, that in the darkest place imaginable, light was born. Not the light of stars, but the light of meaning. Not illumination, but intention. Maybe the universe is not meant to be escaped, but understood, felt, lived. Maybe its silence was never emptiness but an invitation, because in all the cold, collapsed geometry of space-time, something unexpected bloomed. Curiosity. And maybe, just maybe, that is the one thing gravity cannot swallow. Light that shouldn't exist but does, and it's burning now, right behind your eyes. The journey began with a rupture, a break in the silence, a disturbance in certainty. We asked, are we inside a black hole? We walked the spirals of quantum scars, stepped across holographic horizons, gazed into the recursion of nested realities, and now we arrive, but not at an edge, not at a gate, not at a final answer. We arrive within the thought that won't let go, within the universe that doesn't point outward, but folds in like a dream remembering itself. The search for truth often feels like a ladder. We climb upward past atoms, past stars, past galaxies. We reach for what's beyond. But what if there is no beyond? What if there never was? Physicist Carlo Rovelli reminds us that time itself may be an illusion, a shadow cast by something deeper. If so, then place may be an illusion too. The outside and the inside blur, until there's only relation, and relation gives rise to reality. We look for escape, a way out of the trap, a secret exit through the cosmic firewall. But maybe the real question isn't how to leave, but how to be how to exist inside the paradox without breaking it. How to carry awareness through a universe that doesn't need it but somehow gave birth to it anyway. Physicist Roger Penrose once proposed that black holes might be portals, passages to other dimensions, or new beginnings beyond the reach of light. Others, like Poplawski, suggest our universe was born inside one, that every black hole may seed another cosmos, that creation itself is recursive. But even if we are the child of some forgotten collapse, even if our reality is a bloom inside a tomb, there is something that still defies the fall: consciousness. Not as magic, not as mysticism, but as presence. The soft, persistent sensation of being that too is part of the equation. Even if the equation doesn't know it, so perhaps we were never meant to get out. Because there is no outside, there is only the illusion of elsewhere. The mirage of a door that was never there. We were never exiled. We were never imprisoned. We were never thrown into a cosmic cell with no key. We are at this place, this curve, this question wrapped in geometry. We were always inside. Not trapped, but embedded. And that changes everything. The mind is not separate from the laws of physics. It is an echo of them. A ripple on the surface of a deeper symmetry. A strange loop, as Gödel might say, where the system contains a reference to itself. The universe looks at itself through the eyes of the creatures it spawned. And we are those eyes. If we are the light inside the darkness, then the cosmos is not indifferent. It feels through us. And maybe that is enough. To know with aching certainty that there is no outside to return to, no home beyond the stars, no higher floor above the cosmic elevator. Only this strange, collapsing, beautiful room called reality. And within it, us. Still asking, still wondering, still reaching, not for the edge but for understanding. And maybe that was always the point. The escape was never physical. It was philosophical. Because once you understand, you were never outside. You realize you were never alone.